The night of the annual gala was supposed to be a celebration of my achievements. After years of hard work, rising from a junior position in my company, this event was a chance to bask in recognition. My wife, stunning in her flowing dress, stood beside me, and her presence filled me with pride. But as we entered the dazzling venue, I noticed a flicker in her eyes when she saw him. Ethan, the audacious new member of her social group. Tall, arrogant, and thriving on attention, he had a way of commanding every space he entered. It wasn't long before Ethan's presence dominated the room. His sharp-witted jests, laced with a cutting edge, echoed loudly, and his boisterous laughter reverberated. Others joined in with hesitant chuckles, their faces betraying discomfort. As we lingered by the opulent spread of food, Ethan draped his arm around my wife with a familiarity that grated on me. My blood boiled, but I kept my composure, watching in silence. The moment that tested my restraint came when he proclaimed, "I can't believe she ended up with you," pointing at me with a smug smirk. The crowd's uneasy laughter followed. My wife's face paled, but she said nothing. Humiliation surged through me. Yet I saw it plainly. This wasn't just about me. Ethan thrived on belittling others to inflate his own ego. I forced a stiff smile, gave his hand a brief shake and stepped back. Anger churned inside, but I refused to cause a scene at the gala. Instead, I retreated to a quiet corner, feigning a phone call while my thoughts raced, piecing together what I knew about Ethan. He wasn't merely a guest. He was a new recruit in our company's sales team. Recent HR communications had stressed fostering a respectful workplace. Over the next week, I carefully cataloged every unsettling encounter I could recall or discover. In the break room, I overheard Ethan's crude comments about female coworkers, his mocking remarks about people's looks, and his boasts that he could outshine anyone in the organization. Those around him laughed nervously, their unease evident. I discreetly spoke with colleagues, who admitted feeling intimidated by him, but too afraid to speak up. I collected evidence, dates, verbatim quotes, even screenshots of inappropriate late-night group texts he'd sent. Initially, I questioned whether I was being too vengeful, but as the proof piled up, it became clear. Ethan wasn't just impolite, he was a workplace tyrant. When I presented my detailed report to HR, the director's eyes widened as she reviewed the pages. "This is serious," she said, her voice heavy. I hadn't embellished a single fact. The evidence spoke for itself. By the meeting's end, HR promised a thorough investigation. The fallout was swift. Within 2 weeks, Ethan's overpowering presence disappeared from the office. HR issued a company-wide email referencing behavioral violations, though they kept details confidential. Whispers spread among coworkers, and a wave of relief swept through the workplace. The stifling tension that had followed Ethan like a shadow lifted almost overnight. When I told my wife what I'd done, she studied me for a long moment before asking carefully, "Did you take it too far?" I shook my head. No, Ethan had woven his own downfall. I'd merely given HR the means to act. She didn't push further, and I sensed a newfound admiration in her eyes for how I'd handled it without sinking to his level. At the next gala, the atmosphere felt lighter. No overpowering laughter overshadowed the conversations. No imposing figure made others feel diminished. This time, as my wife walked in with me, her hand squeezed mine tightly, her eyes glowing with pride. Not for Ethan's hollow charisma, but for the quiet strength I'd shown. I understood then that true power doesn't come from publicly humiliating others. It arises from standing tall when someone tries to diminish you, and choosing to fight with strategy rather than bravado. Ethan thought himself invincible, the ruler of every room. But in the end, patience, careful planning, and the truth were enough to undo him. As we left the gala that night, I felt liberated. Not just because Ethan was gone, but because I'd defended myself with dignity. My wife's gaze carried a deeper respect, and I knew I'd earned something more valuable than public praise, her admiration. The best part? HR had been the one to bring him down. I'd only provided the push they needed. Ethan had shamed me once, but in the end, he'd brought far greater disgrace upon himself.